Hello everyone, this is PKO Entertainment and we are back again. And now we're going to go into a spoiler review of Superman Red Son, the recent animated movie based on the three-part comic book series written by Mark Millar. The whole concept of what would happen if Superman ship, when he was a young baby, had landed in Ukraine in Russia instead of Smallville in Kansas, and what would the repercussions and the ramifications and a different direction that character would have gone through had he landed in that particular area there. So I've already stated my view in the non-spoiler review, how I thought this was a really good return to form for the DC animated movies, which have really had a shaky time over the last couple of years. I mentioned in my non-spoiler review already the movies that I felt were disappointing, and then the movies I felt were really when the DC animated movies were at its peak. Okay, so that's why I enjoyed this movie a lot. It was very strong in its storytelling. It handled its story arcs very well. I think it juggled the elements of the source material really well. So we're just going to go over a few of those elements now. So, as in the title, spoilers. So if you haven't watched the Superman Red Son movie yet, you want to stop now, watch the movie, watch my spoiler review, and then you can come back. Non-spoiler review, and then you can come back and watch my spoiler review after. So, the beginning of the movie, it was a very good sequence of when we have the Superman when he's a young kid, and essentially he has his female friend, and these bullies are picking on her, and she kind of sticks up for him, and then she asks the kid basically, well, why didn't you beat them up? Why didn't you hurt them? Are you afraid of them? And then the kid says, I wasn't afraid of them. I was afraid of what I was going to do to them. You see, that's very classic Superman behaviour. You know, that's what we expect. You know, Superman who has the power to do things, but is very aware of the consequences of what his power can do to others. That's why we always see Superman is always holding back whatever adventures or fights he's in. He's always withholding his power, the true strength of his power, because he's worried about the consequences afterwards. So that was a nice touch. And then the girl says afterwards, right, we need to kind of use your powers for the people, for the government. Okay, so it's a different spin, because normally the classic rendition of Superman is that Jonathan and Martha Kent, they bring up Superman really just as a normal teenager. They just want him to experience normal life first before he then makes the choice himself to go and be kind of the world saviour. They don't tell him, right, you've got to be you've got to help your people. They kind of choose his destiny for him. So that's one, very different touch in this. So we move forward with the story and we see Superman kind of addressing the people. He's again showing those classic Superman tendencies. He's not there to dictate. He's not there to sort of rule over the people. He's just there to help and support the people. And as I mentioned in my non-spoiler review, this is a Superman again who is very aware of people suffering and the political state of the country that he's in. So we then cut across. We see the Americans. They're aware of the threat, or the perceived threat, that this Soviet version of Superman is. We see Lex Luthor and Lois in bed together. We get insight into their relationship. I'm sure people may comment on, Lois Lane states the fact that, it's easy for Lex Luthor to kind of put on weight and not have to be in shape, whereas someone in her position, she can only get attention or go as far because of her looks, etc. So a bit of kind of cultural commentary going on in there, but that's fine, fair enough. They didn't lean on that too much. That wasn't really a big deal going forward on there. So there was enough. I think the next development was when a missile is going to hit Metropolis, and then Superman comes over and he saves the missile, I believe, from hitting Metropolis, and then he kind of stands aloft. We get a shot very similar to the Batman vs Superman shot where Superman was floating above the people. He's got a white skyline behind him. Again, they want to present this godlike version of him, and he swoops down to the people and he tells them what he believes in, what he stands for, and comments on the American government and the problems he sees with their ideologies. And then that's when I mentioned before, when my non-spoiler review, that Lois kind of comes back at him and says, why don't you do an interview? Are you afraid of people to be able to express their free ideas? Superman is kind of taken aback. We then get a later scene when they meet up again, and Lois then gives him a classified report which kind of details all the wrong things going on within the Soviet regime that Superman has been supporting and a representative of, well, since he revealed his powers. So this was a great scene. I love the music here as we see Superman looking at all the details and we see his reaction and his shock. And it's one of those great moments when you don't need to go into the details. You don't need to have any exposition. You're just relying on the character's own display of emotion to kind of feel the weight of what's going on. So we progress further, and then Superman, he goes down and he sees the people suffering. He sees the poverty. He sees there's one kid who is standing there, and I think his parents are sitting in the corner, and I think they're died or they're suffering. They're very ill, and then I think he sees bats coming out of the cup. I don't know. I've just thought about it, but I don't know if that was symbolic. If that was a kind of symbolic reference to Batman. I don't know. It doesn't really pose relevance in this type of storyline, but again, I'm just drawing on something there. Maybe that was some sort of unhidden symbolism that they wanted to put on there. But these were great moments, and again, this is what you would expect from a Superman character, to be aware of the consequences of whatever evil or whatever kind of regimented policies that are going on, to be aware of the people, aware of the suffering. That's the compassion that we associate really with all the DC heroes, but mostly with Superman. So great scene again, and then we move forward to when he goes to the politician himself and he discusses what's going on, and then again we get a great kind of thrashing up there of ideals. The politician is basically saying, look, in order to kind of keep control or keep things under, stopping them from overspilling, you have to be cruel, you have to be extreme force, you have to do these horrible things to stop horrible things happening, that kind of concept. And Superman doesn't agree, of course. That's what we expect from Superman. Superman doesn't like the way things are being run. He wants to do things a better way. And the guy says, yes, okay, you show me a better way. And he says a great line. It's something along the lines of, some people have to die in order for good things to happen. And Superman turns around and said, that's a good point. And then you see Superman's eyes look out. And this is what I mentioned in my non-spoiler review. This is one of those shockingly violent moments. Again, not graphic, but just the way it is. Because up until now, Superman has been this very kind of, compassionate character. You wouldn't expect him to just out and out kill someone. But that line in particular, you have to kill people in order to do good things. And then Superman just blasts him. And it's very shocking. Again, very good dramatic music. The other soldiers walk in, they see what happens, and then they kind of kneel down, as if to say, this is the new leader now, and they ask him, what next? Right? And then that's when we go on where Superman has kind of assumed control, and we see him further along how, sometimes he has to overrun certain nations. I think there's a Korea kind of situation happening, and Superman states basically, okay, 3,000 people, something like that, had to die, but that had to happen in order for multi-millions of people to survive. So again, that's kind of the conflict of ideas that we're trying to draw. This movie does it very well. So the ongoing narrative, we go back to Lex, and this is one thing they stay true to the character always. Lex is always trying to usurp Superman, overpower Superman, find ways to combat Superman. Government, again, the US government is fearful of Superman. We get all these themes currently going across, a lot of DC movies and content. We have to be scared and paranoid with Superman. I don't mind the government having those fears, but it's when you have the people having those fears as well. That's the issue I have. But Lex Luthor creates this kind of Superman 2, kind of clone of Superman, because when Superman saved the missile in Metropolis, he left his fingerprints all over the missiles. They used that genetic footprint to create this clone. This clone goes to Russia. Before they fight, we have a meeting between Superman and Wonder Woman, and Wonder Woman acknowledges the fact that her Amazonians are kind of wanting to stay where they are, and she is this ambassadorial role. She's kind of in between. She's coming from the Amazonians, but she wants to kind of union. And again, that's what we associate with women. That's the kind of role that Wonder Woman has, right? She is, she's put out there in the world to see if man has changed from his ways, his destructive ways. And if he has, then she can try and integrate the Amazons to join man's world more. So that's very, again, true to the nature of Wonder Woman as well. So they have a good connection between the two. He tries to kiss her. I think she makes some remark about how she's always in Themyscira, and they leave the kind of romance there. She goes away, and then that's when the Superman clone comes in. They have a fight, good action sequences, very, very crisp, intense punches and kicks thrown, and then Superman beats the Superman clone. And the way that this Superman clone kind of disfigured, again, they don't call him Bizarro, but the way of the look, we know that Bizarro in general has kind of shorter, spiky hair, and he kind of had this fragmented face, this kind of crystallized effect on his face, this kind of mutated, misshapen body. So that battle, that's what that dissolves into, and then he kind of just dissolves as Superman defeats him. So we go on to that, and then we have the next part, which for me is really the kind of stronger, really more darker and compelling part of the storyline here. Superman continues his role. He continues to elevate the world and make it a better place. We have this really kind of very interesting, stroke disturbing development where Superman is now, whoever is causing bad crimes, Superman is taking these people and maybe not lobotomizing them, but putting them under a certain mind control and getting them to do a certain, his bidding, his certain tasks. Wonder Woman is initially uncomfortable with this, but she's still supportive of Superman. She does highlight that the Amazonians are aware of Superman's techniques and they don't agree with it. She wants Superman to kind of stop doing this kind of mind control over people, but she's willing to give Superman a bit more time as opposed to what the Amazonians were. So at this moment, the relationship between the two is still very good. And then we get the real kind of big surprise where we have this terrorist who sends out this message to there's this kind of rich mansion or palace or party, little gathering, whatever it is. States to the people they have 10 minutes to get out of the building before he blows it up. And of course the building blows up after 10 seconds. Oh, I'm sorry, did I mean 10 minutes? I meant 10 seconds. And then we find out that it's Batman, or a version of Batman with a Russian accent. And this is where, I was generally very surprised, because in general, when we get these Elseworld stories, these alternate stories of Superman, Batman, it's always, more than not, it's Batman who is the protagonist, right? And it's Superman who is the power-hungry antagonist. He's got too carried away with his power. He's a dictator. He wants to rule the city. He wants to protect it, but he does it with this sort of totalitarian, zero tolerance rule. And Batman is always kind of on the outside, trying to infiltrate and stop Superman. I've mentioned before the classic Injustice storyline, and in general, even with the Batman versus Superman storyline, it's always Batman that thinks of Superman. We paint Superman as kind of this evil, right? This twisted it, because in this version, Batman is the evil. Batman is the terrorist, right? Batman is the crazy one. In this version here, Batman is unhappy with the way that Superman has been running things. He doesn't like the fact that having one person ruling over the government. So he has these little, Batman agents running around causing this mayhem. Superman encounters them, but he doesn't kill them. Again, this is going back to how he puts mind control. We then get to this great scene where somehow Batman has managed to capture Wonder Woman. I don't know, maybe that's one criticism, because I don't know how Batman could get the jump on Wonder Woman, right? This Batman version doesn't have any kind of superpowers. He gets Wonder Woman in the lasso of truth, captures her, holds her to ransom. Superman comes over. Batman then sets a trap for him. Superman x-rays him. He sees Batman's got an explosive in his chest. Batman sets off all these devices with the red sunlight we know Superman is vulnerable to. Superman succumbs to the red sunlight. Batman puts him in this kind of cellar. And that's it done. And then Wonder Woman breaks free of her lasso of truth. Again, you'd think the lasso of truth shouldn't be able to capture Wonder Woman. But, okay, fair enough. And it's quite a stunning revelation where we see Wonder Woman's hair turn grey. Right? So, as if to being under duress of the lasso of truth has kind of sapped away her youth, her energy. I mean, that's very striking because we assume Wonder Woman has this kind of immortal age to her, right? So to see the effect of the lasso turning her hair grey was, quite, shocking and surprising. She frees Superman. She turns off the red sunlight. Superman comes back out, beats Batman. And then he states to Batman that he's not going to kill him, but he's going to give him the same mind control that he's been given to all these other people. And then Batman doesn't want to do that. So then Batman just self-destructs and blows himself up. And again, you see some blood splattering on Superman's face, but it's not graphic, but it's shocking. It's just one of those shocking moments where they don't put in any dramatic tension and it just happens. And it's really, this for me was probably the most compelling part of the movie. It really was kind of intense, dramatic wise, not visually wise or like I said, intense wise graphically. But it was just for me, just great to see this reverse, because I'm sick and tired of having this, in all the DC content lately where Batman is the hero, Superman's the evil one, Batman's got to beat him. Yeah, it kind of felt familiar, even in this movie again, where we have Batman fighting Superman yet again, because for some reason, DC just can't have Batman and Superman working together anymore. They've got to fight. They've got to be against each other. And it's just really tiring and familiar. I can't really mark the film down too much for this because it's just typical of the source material and typical of, the way that DC, again, part of this deconstruction, wants to take Superman down, beat him down and make Batman better than him. It's a whole nother debate, but that just kind of felt familiar ground. But really intense part of this story arc, and I really loved it, really compelling. We go to the next part. Years have gone by, and I think at this stage now Lex Luthor has become the president of the United States, and what we got here now was that they discovered a Green Lantern ship, and it had the fragments, I think, of the Green Lantern power ring, and over years they've developed this power ring into a weapon. And what we see is when Superman is talking to Brainiac, and there's this big discussion about how America's political situation has increased, and that's a potential threat to perhaps the ongoing war between the Americans and the Soviets. Superman thought America would essentially destroy itself. That's why he hasn't gone to conquer it. But Brainiac tells him, no, the American government is rising and maybe you have to invade. Superman says no. Again, that's good. That's what we expect Superman to say. They go on a scan, they see what they perceive as missiles, but it's actually the Green Lantern Corps. These group of Marines who have been trained to use the green power rings, and it's spearheaded by Hal Jordan, and I think it's John Stewart. John Stewart, he's talking next to him, even has the same voice of the actor who did the voice for the John Stewart Justice League and Unlimited show. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I believe that was the case. It was the same voice actor in that. So we have this great battle with the Green Lanterns, and then another surprising revelation was when Wonder Woman comes back in to break the battle up. She's now fully got her grey hair, still having the effects of the encounter with Batman. And again, we get this clashing of themes between her and Superman. She says, Superman, you need to stop this, all this conflict, all this danger, and I'll go and talk to Lex Luthor. I'll try and sort things out. Superman says no. Lex Luthor's going to manipulate you and turn you against me, and Wonder Woman's like, this can't go on. So again, great sort of clashing of ideas. Some people may perceive this as woke or man bashing women. Wonder Woman, talks a lot about, oh, you're just a pathetic man, just like the rest of them. We wanted to trust you, but I can't trust you anymore. I'm going to abandon you and leave you alone. Superman tries to punch her. She blocks the punch and basically just dismisses him as the same as all the other men in the world. I think that's more in keeping again with Wonder Woman's character, because that's the concept of the Amazonians, right? They grew up in Themyscira. They were granted their own safe haven because of the dangers of the men, and so that's how they grew up to be. So Wonder Woman, even though, as I mentioned, it's going to have this more ambassadorial role where she's trying to build a bridge between the Amazonians and the people of this earth, she's always going to have that stronger belief again that men are just too power hungry and out of control. She might have a point if you go by this storyline. So she flies away. Superman, I think, beats the Green Lanterns, and then we further the story again where essentially now Superman has to make that final decision to invade the Lex, and Brainiac makes him decide this, and they go forward, and just as he's about to encounter the White House, and he's doing this because he can see now that the rising of the American superpower and is having a really damaging effect on his own regime, and he thinks this is now the only way. Brainiac convinces him now this is the only way to kind of, eliminate all evil if he takes Lex out. So he rises to the Brainiac ship. Lois Lane comes out. She has this bowl of containing a city that Brainiac consumed, and Superman's been working for years to release this city out of the bottle, and it's kind of a message to say, look, this city in a bottle is basically what you're trying to do. You're trying to keep everybody in kind of one case, one bottle. You're trying to limit everyone to one place. So you're similar to this. You're similar to the regimes that happened before you, right? You're not allowing that expression of ideas and freedom of ideas that Lois Lane talked about before. This is more to do with the mind control. I don't think it's to do with how Superman was treating normal people. I think this is going back to the mind control and what he was doing. I think that was the message that I was trying to get across. So that makes Superman kind of stop and realise maybe I need to stop doing what I'm doing. He goes to Brainiac, and then this is when the twist happens, and Brainiac reveals that he's never been under Superman's control. He's always been just biding his time, trying to convince Superman to invade Lex, but he can see that Superman doesn't want to do that, so Brainiac essentially turns on Superman. We have Superman fighting Brainiac. This kind of felt a bit sudden, a bit kind of late on. I would have liked a bit more development. Felt that was one of my main criticisms, but fair enough. We get that going through, and then Lex comes in, not in the green power suit. Classic adaptations normally have, when Lex is fighting Superman, he has the green kryptonite suit. He's in a blue suit. Fair enough. And then him and Superman fight Brainiac, and they defeat him, but Brainiac has this kind of backup device. If he gets destroyed, it's going to self-destruct. So Superman, being Superman, tells Lex to get out, lifts the ship way out in space. The ship destroys. So we assume that Superman has died. We get a great scene, and I've got to mention a great scene near the end when Superman is lifting the ship in outer space, and we get a great call back to a great scene before when he's talking with his mother, and just so I go back, I kind of missed that in the scene where he's seen her suffering. That's when he saw his mother, his guardian, and that was a death scene before, and we get a call back to that. It's really good emotional, really good musical applied to that scene. Fantastic moment. Again, classic Superman-esque characteristics, wanting to save the world, willing to give himself up in order to the world to survive. It's just classic Superman. This is what we should be getting, despite it being an Elseworld version, okay? So Superman dies, and then we forward on to Lex giving his final speech at the presidential hearing, where he's going to resign as president, and he's going to give the duties over to Jimmy Olsen. Another black Jimmy Olsen, just like Supergirl. Not bothered about that really. It's an elsewhere version, so what? And as Lex gives this great speech, Lois is looking in the crowd, and she sees Superman in the classic Clark Kent glasses, hat, and suit on. And it's one of those, she looks for him, she sees him, and then he walks away. So he survived, and he's kind of happy now that the world is, looking for a more peaceful resolution, because Lex Luthor states that they don't want to be in conflict with the Soviet Union anymore. They want to help them and help the people and provide aid and come to a more peaceful resolution. So an upbeat ending, an uplifting ending, what you should get with Superman exactly. I guess I only would have wanted to see Superman at the end kind of maybe go back to his, I don't know, maybe a farm in the Soviet Union, or maybe just talk to his mother's grave one more time. I think it ends with the planet, but I think the final scene should have been with Superman. It's a Superman movie, but for me, maybe I'm nitpicking, but Lex kind of took away the last kind of moments that I think Superman should have had on there. But yeah, it was very rounded movie, just very well constructed. It got the main arcs of all the source material, handled them really well. I mentioned them on non-spoiler review. The issue with a lot of these movies is that they try to juggle too much, but at the same time that they want all the superhero action, and the movie just never flows, and it's just rushed, and after a while you just kind of rolling your eyes, just waiting for it to end. Didn't have that with this movie. Was constantly watching, constantly compelled, because it focused primarily on the character and the story. There is action, but that didn't take as much priority, and it juggled all the source material elements really well and really good, and had an uplifting ending. And I'm pleased that, for a change, it kept Superman as the hero, as the protagonist, didn't go for the dark, gritty, alternate, evil Superman that so many people want to do these days. I just can't understand why. That makes Superman more gritty, more interesting. I don't believe in that. But just sticking to the movie, just overall really pleased with this, really pleased. And I hope now that they can just stick to this standard. Okay, stick to this standard of storytelling and pacing and character focus and story focus. If they can do that with their future adaptations, I think we're getting another Justice League Apocalypse War, Justice League Dark movie coming very soon. I think there's a Green Lantern movie as well, maybe in the pipeline. I'm sure we'll get another Batman variant movie. They always do Batman. I think there's a Harley Quinn movie as well. So let's hope that they can build on this recent standard set by Superman Red Son and just build from there and get back to the really kind of top tier level of DC animated movies set previously, like Flashpoint, Paradox, Dark Knight Returns, Batman on the Red Hood, etc, etc. So that's my spoiler filled details of Superman Red Son. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I'll be reviewing a lot more of the future DC movie releases, and I will eventually go back and review the previous DC movies, 37. I don't know if I'll review all 37 of them, but certainly more of the upper tier ones, the more classics. I'll review them in the future. But let me know what you thought in the comments below. Thank you for listening to this spoiler filled review of Red Son, and I will see you very soon, and you take care of yourselves for now.